So our last move is to fill in the formulas for these 4 cells that will be statistical functions that we're going to use. So this first function is the number of categories. So where are my categories? My categories are sitting over here, and I want to count up the number of these. So there's a fast thing I can do if I select them all and look down on my status bar, and you'll see that my count value over here shows 9. Okay, so I don't know if you've noticed this. Your status bar, when you're selecting a bunch of cells, if I select all of these cells here, for example, when I select these, the way I've got my status bar up, it will say my average value is 166. I have 9 of those values selected, and the sum is 1496. So here's my sum. I had already calculated that out. So oftentimes it's a quick check to see what you're doing. So in this case, my number of categories was 9. So we want our solution to show up right here. And I don't want to type again the number 9, because let's say if I use this next year and I no longer have a car, and I don't want to, and then I'm not going to be buying gasoline anymore, for example. I want to be able to use this spreadsheet with one of these lines missing, and if I typed in the actual value 9, I would be wrong next time. So I want to use a formula to do that. So again, an equal sign. But I want to be able to use statistic. I don't know how to mathematically calculate count, but there are formulas that that Excel has right on board, and they are statistical formulas. So we can look here and see if we can find the statistical formulas. Yes, they're statistical. And look at all of these formulas that are on board. And I'm going to select statistical, and I'm going to go down this list, and oh, look at this, I see a count. I'm going to select the count, and it opens up this dialog box. Now the dialog box will tell you what the software needs in order for this function to work, and they call those the function arguments. So if you think about it, if you said, if I said to you, count, you would say, count what? So the software is waiting for you to put in the values which you want to count up, or the cells where there's value that you want to count. So I want to count the number of cells here that have my information. So here we go. It said, here are my values, D3 through D11, and I have a count equals 9. So that's the value that I had. I said, okay, what if I have my situation where we don't have any gas? I'm going to delete the gas out. And look at that. All of my numbers are updating automatically because I've thought through and set up formulas that are robust and handle changes within my calculations, right? Changes within my spreadsheet. And my number of categories went down. Okay, so let's put that back in so we don't confuse things. Great, so that's the count. The average works the same way. So again, we can go and use our statistical functions on this list. And we know that there's an average. But I'm just going to start typing it because there must be an average. So I just started typing the average, and I get this little helper box that shows up and says there's formulas, or there are functions that I have on board that start with AVE, and it's showing me all of them. So here's my average. I'm going to use that, and now it's helping me along. It does the open paren. Now notice when I went through this method, I don't get that dialog box that pops up. When we move on to the mortgage payments and car payments, I would highly encourage you to use the dialog box. So I want to take the average of some numbers. So I'm going to take the average of these numbers. Now let's stop for a moment, and you'll notice that this function follows the same syntax that we saw with the sum function. And we're going to look and you'll see that the count function works the same way. So it's equals the function name, open parentheses, the arguments, in this case it's a range of cells, close paren. So that's how a function always exists. So let's double click and look at the count function. So here we go. It's equals the count is the name of the function, open paren, the arguments, close paren. Okay, so my guess is there's a minimum and a maximum. So let's try them. Minimum, there it is. There's our minimum. Open paren, it wants to know what the minimum is. Of what numbers? So these are the numbers that I want to select the minimum from. There's that. And equals max. There it is. And select those. Enter. And there we go.